Mommy Talk, the champions of parenting. Dr. Pert, Miss
So
Miss April.
one person at each mic.
Relatable and right on time. Mommy Talk provides information.
I'm wondering, yeah, because he's away from a mic and you're.
Engage
Okay, that's what I was. All right, just want to double check. Okay.
Experience and expertise to the world of parenthood.
Our listeners can expect to receive encouragement and resources that can help them with positive parental engagement.
Stand by.
Hey, champion parents. Welcome to Mommy Talk, where our goal is to get parents excited about being mothers and fathers by providing information and resources to inspire positive parental engagement. Hey, champion parents. How y'all doing?
Great. Awesome.
Okay, good. Anything happened this weekend? Interesting?
Church was beautiful. I want to give a shout out to Sacred Heart under the pastorship of Father Norman P. Thomas and the Sacred Heart Choir. John Thorne, Care Ward, I love you all. You rocked it yesterday. Hey.
Yeah, I had an awesome time yesterday. I had an opportunity to attend women's beauty brunch where a lot of powerful women came up and spoke about their entrepreneurship. And it's really empowering for me. And, we talked about being positive and have positive affirmation that resonated with me. So, yeah, my weekend was wonderful.
Amen to Miss Lisa.
And
they had a good turnout. You sent those pictures, Miss April. Remember? Those were nice pictures that you sent of the event yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a nice turnout. I saw that. Thanks for really sharing that. That's very nice. So today we will be talking about parental balance, strength and submission for healthy fathers, and how to raise an African American male. Callers, if you want to engage and talk to us, call us at 313-837-1340. So ladies, we all have sons, right?
Yes.
Ages. What's your son's ages?
My son is 10 years old.
Mine are 19 and 20.
And yes, I have a 2-year-old boy. And having a child, sometimes you tend to worry about the societal pitfalls.
That's right.
So do you all ever worry about that?
I absolutely do. Yeah, it's difficult, when you're raising your children and you're instilling the positive and moving forward characteristics and, doing what you need to do as a parent. And you try to prepare them for the real world. And when they encounter that not so friendly person or the person who necessarily doesn't have their best interest in mind, that's very scary. But you let them have their encounter, you kind of guide them. Hopefully they'll learn.
Absolutely, I agree. And for my son, he's 10 years old, but I still worry about his development and when he encounters or when he grows older to encounter just different societal issues. You want to protect them forever, but
moms like to protect our boys.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do. And the main thing is hopefully to raise them to be independent, to be strong, to be patient, and be perceptive, pay attention to his surroundings.
Absolutely, and I think all of our champion parents out there can relate. And I know me personally, I'm aware that my son will possibly be judged on a double standard by being an African American male. And for me, it's important not to put that in my child's head, a self-fulfilling prophecy where they will be a part of the school to prison pipeline. So I always like to have conversation with my son and all of my children and kind of guide their thinking about how they feel about themselves so that they can have a positive fulfilling prophecy about themselves. So despite what you heard, our African American males do make good grades, accomplish their goals, are mannerable, and very smart. However, sometimes our African American males are seen as a statistic, an individual who will go to jail because they can be aggressive or prone to violence. So today we have Ricky Fountain.
That's what's up. That's
Look
what's
at him,
up.
looking sugar sharp. He's a committed husband for 12 years, a father of 2, Maximilian and Carrington. He was born and raised in the city of Detroit by a single mother and attended Detroit public schools, graduated from the University of Michigan, Arizona State University, and Wayne State University, and spent his entire professional career as an educator.
Absolutely.
Nice.
What high school did you graduate from?
I graduated from Benny High School.
Oh, yeah, you did say that. Okay,
Absolutely.
Benny,
Nice.
okay.
Benny Highlander,
Yes.
green and white in the house, baby.
Yeah.
Green and white.
Yes. Well, can I interject for a minute, Mr. Ricky Fontaine? I kept calling you. That's not his name. So I had to make myself say Fountain, but I know you've heard the corny jokes over and over again.
And it's all good. It's all love. It's all love.
Fontaine.
Pretty Ricky, what they call him.
Hey. Absolutely. Okay, so Miss April is going to lead us in with some concerns.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely.
So, there are many negative connotations and perceptions about an African American male being raised by a single mother or father. I believe it goes back to having a two-parent household, which is also called a nuclear family. So according to the Webster's Dictionary, nuclear is a societal unit comprised of 2 parents and 1 or more children. Children have been deemed to be raised in a 2-parent or nuclear household as being raised right. How do you feel about parents being raised, or children being raised in a 2-parent household? Or a single-parent household?
Right. I do believe that, again, it's societal, so I think it's important for you to interject that marker. I was raised by a single mom, and you would have an impossible time of telling me that my mom wasn't a fantastic mom and that she didn't raise a
That's right, because you turned out great.
Hey, and it's a byproduct of her. I don't take credit where it's not mine. That's God and that's her. And so I think sometimes we look at the triangle and there's some distortion in terms of reality and what we are faced to deal with. I was a byproduct of a mom raised me on her own, but my dad died when I was 3. And so if people just looked at it statistically, they would have said you were raised by a single mom, but oftentimes, the cover of the book doesn't tell you what's inside the book. And so I think we are always fighting against perceptions that are imposed. I think the most important thing is what's being foundationally applied in the home. I think for me, my mom created great clarity relative to my real father, my only father, which is God, and my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So I think oftentimes, when you remove the spirit from the conversation, then you get into some of the worldly classifications that can be erroneous. So my biggest response to the notion of nuclear family is that we all have an ideal situation of what a healthy household looks like. And I think as we get more adept at managing relationships in society and in our own homes, some of those markers that in the past have been negative, I think there just should be a greater celebration of individual parents who are able to do it successfully, as opposed to a very strategic negative emphasis on African American families specifically, because the data will ferret out. You have high divorce rates across the country. You have a lot of single homes across the country, but the specific focus has customarily been on African American families as if it's a pathology, when it's a bigger social issue and not necessarily an issue just to our culture and community.
Exactly, yes. So another interesting fact or opinion, depending on how you look at it, is single fathers are praised, whereas single moms are penalized.
Right.
I believe it's because of the preconceived notion that men know what it's like to raise a man, and women don't have a clue. Men are praised, whereas they step up to the responsibility of raising a man, whereas women are sometimes looked down on because they can't relate to being a man. The movie Boys in the Hood comes to mind, the scene where the main character Ricky is taking to live with his father. His mother feeling overwhelmed with personal responsibilities and being overwhelmed with Ricky's behavior and antics. Ricky's father gladly stepped in and helped to raise him.
Right.
Now, I have 2 sons, like I said, 19 and 20. They are both students at Michigan State. However, I remember it being tough. I was married, divorced their father when they were 3 and 4, and has raised them since as a single mom.
Right.
And their father is an actor in their life, so I often wonder if there are some things they miss as young men. They already don't know how to change a tire or mow the lawn, because that's not something I was interested in doing, and I don't know how to do it, so I didn't know how to teach them. But my goal was to get them a firm foundation educationally, and I wasn't necessarily concerned about the latter.
Right.
But I believe as a man, those are important and vital skills to know.
Got it.
When I have a conversation with my sons, I say, well, what y'all gonna do? They say, Ma, I'll hire somebody to take care of that for me. But is that the right frame of mind? So going back to the question, why is it that single fathers are heroes or praised versus single moms being penalized?
I think, again, America's a unique place in that a lot of times we celebrate things, ironically, that really shouldn't be celebrated. A single father being celebrated for what single moms have been doing for the umpteenth years, I think it's just a byproduct of what we consider in this country. This is a very patriarchal country, a very patriocentric country where everything is really built around this image of a dad being the primary driver in decision making, when most of us who've been raised by single moms, including myself, would swear that my life experience would probably be totally different if it wasn't for her. Having a male doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have balance and an equitable way of looking at the world. It's the right type of person. And I think we make a lot of attributions to males as opposed to the same things we talked about. I didn't change tires with my mom, and my mom didn't have me out there mowing lawns, but my mom had me in books, and my mom had me in church, and my mom was on my back. And so the things that she taught me, it's a translatable and transferable skill now to me being a dad with my children. So I think the reason it's lifted, sadly in our community, it's lifted because that's the element that people constantly lift. If there are not a lot of dads, then if you are a dad there as a single dad, you are elevated with a level of prestige that to me is not necessarily equal. I don't think we can ever find equity because life will throw you curveballs, but I don't want to down brothers for doing it right with their children either, but I don't necessarily believe we should minimize the wonderful works that mothers have been doing, I mean, for centuries in our community. So,
and you know what, I just wanted to add though, you know, even if for other single parents that may be listening, maybe you're not skilled in certain areas,
right.
But what do we do when if it's something we want them to learn, we research,
right.
You know, we'll research or we'll try to provide those outlets.
Absolutely.
Or try to make those connections. So just because we don't know how to do certain things, don't let that be discouraging.
Right.
You know, let's just go out and seek, and maybe we don't want to learn it, but we can find someone.
And I think what the misnomer is, if you have a dad, that the dad is able to do certain things. You could have a father who's an artist, who's a cook.
That's right.
We have a catalog of skills in our community, and if you want your child to learn certain attributes of growing up, you don't have to automatically associate everything with a male being physical.
That's right.
You can associate everything with a male being productive or being a problem solver. Me being in education my whole adult life has been one of the greatest blessings because I've had generations of young men under my stewardship who didn't have the traditional father at home. And the one thing we constantly discussed is, how do you solve problems? If you don't know how to do something directly, how do you get the indirect solution? That's success. It's not you always having the answer, it's how you leverage your relationships and your skills to get the answer.
Okay, so my son's okay now.
I was going to say your son was phenomenal until you said Michigan State. A little shade on you for that green and white Michigan State play.
Oh, Lord.
But, no, I do think that we've had some short-sighted ideas injected into our community. I think what we've done is been able to transcend some of those limited images, but some of that's strategic and societal, and some of it is just impositions within our community. But I think that fathers and mothers who build the right framework, who teach their children how to solve problems, they'll find a greater level of success.
That's right.
Well
And callers,
said.
I'm
Well
sorry, I just
said.
wanted to remind the callers to call in at 313-837-1340. And I just have to add, that's so true. I agree with both of you, Mr. Fountain and Miss April. You know, every man isn't a handyman. You know,
That's true.
That's
don't
right.
get it twisted.
And let's go here. I'm going to go one step deeper since I'm with my own family. I think one of the stereotypes too, if you want to go one step deeper, is that's the first thing you think about when you think about African American males teaching their children. Why isn't the connection directly between African American male reading to their children, or taking their children to a museum, or teaching their children
That's right.
music? And these are all things that we do and have done tremendously over our history as a
Yes.
people. I just think that's why I said some of this is a social imposition,
Yes.
and it's limiting the image of African American male fathers, and subsequently, at the same time, it's penalizing the African American female for what she quote unquote can't do. So if you create these illusions and images that are impossible to reach, there's always a deficit-based model in your community. Women can never beat a man, and all a man could ever do is fix a tire and be a handyman. We always are fighting these images that are unfair and they're imposed externally.
Yeah, one of my favorites is that the son will grow up to be a mama's boy.
Oh, I got you.
You know.
Let me respond to that immediately because I hear that. I heard that a lot. And I say what's funny about that is there's beauty in being a mama's boy. We've again, there are these attributions that connect mama's boy to being soft.
Yes.
Or less than a man. Or not having a frame of reference. This hyper masculine image. And I think for a lot of our young men, you can make a direct correlation. This notion of being a mama's boy, when kids hear, particularly young men, it automatically builds up this image that you shouldn't have an intimate and open relationship with your mother. When that's healthy, you should have an intimate open relationship with your father. That's healthy. So we get criticized for doing things that are actually good for you. Now, if being a mother's boy means that I'm going to be respectful, I'm going to listen, I'm going to respect women, then I want to be a mother's boy every day of the week. What I don't want to be is a weak person, and I don't want to be a person that doesn't have values and ethics.
That's
So
right.
if you shift the nature of the dialogue, then people will stop ascribing these old-fashioned values that no longer exist.
Preach, Ricky, preach. That's what's up.
Nothing wrong being a mama's boy, then you should have a certain. If it were more mama's boys, you probably have less domestic abuse. If you have more people,
My sons are proud mama's boys. They say it all the time. I'm like, are you proud of that? And they're like, yes.
That's good. Because you're a champion parent.
Yes, champion
You should.
parent.
Your sons and daughters should love their parents, and they should love them shamelessly. Because for all of us who are parents, we understand we send our kids out into the world the best we have, and the world is looking for a reason to break them down and chew them up and spit them out. So I want you to have a place of safety, and if being a mama's boy is providing me safety, then mama boy all day, every day.
For
All
sure.
day, every day.
For
I like
sure.
what you said. It takes the right type of person. Let's say it. The right,
The right
Type of person.
All right.
Amen.
Yes, it does.
Problem solving.
Yes,
Being
yes.
productive.
Yes, it does. And faith. And I think for a lot of us, we historically as a people, African American people are the most, if you look at it historically, if you look at the data, if you look at some of the things we had to deal with socio-culturally, we've been the one group that's endured the most global, oppressive, hegemonic, destructive elements historically. This is data driven, and we always find a way to survive, to assimilate, to progress. But I think the thing that's hurting us now, more than anything else, is the fact that there's this greater disconnection of faith. Like we've always been a very faith-driven community, but now some of the things that drive the way we act, that were faith-based, are now starting to shift more towards a more traditional American idea, and I think that hurts us as well. If you move away from faith, you move away from a foundation, then you're going to be easily persuaded to do any and everything.
Yes. Well, you know what? I had a few questions I wanted to ask the guy, Mr. Fountain. You have answered quite a few. You've answered basically all of my questions. So, oh no, my brother. I got a question for you. So, for those parents, if they don't have a consistent male person in their life, a role model,
Right.
what have you, what is your suggestion, even as it relates to the village? How can they create that village?
Well, I would initially say that if children are with strong moms, as we said before, if they're with strong moms, then you have a role model to start. I think where you go from that is you have a lot of secondary relationships, and again, this is
Doing
where
our headphones.
faith, school,
That's why.
community. I think that it's important for us to be very mindful of who we put in front of our boys. I think I used to tell my parents, you don't want to just go seek out a male body. You want to find someone who has an alignment with your beliefs.
Yeah, some
so
substance.
there's an alignment from home to external. So my first thing is be selective of who you put in front of your boys. You know, that's you don't want to just say, well, there's a male teacher at the school.
Right.
Just go be with him. No. Let's have a conversation about the things that you deem appropriate and that you deem important to you. And if you find alignment, don't force it. That's another. A lot of parents would just bring their children. It was myself and a number we were really blessed to have a number of African American males at the school I worked at for a period of time, and parents would just come in droves, like, "Hey, daddy ain't around, Mr. Found, Mr. Such and Such. You all just spend some time with him." And I said, well, before you drop off your most important investment, let's have a conversation about what do you want this to end up being.
Yes.
Do you want us just to have, you want me to lightheartedly go through the hallway, "What's up, fam? Get at me, what do you need?" Or do you want me to pull them down, like, "Listen, what are you doing? You 12 now, you starting to like girls, what are you physically feeling? What do you want me to
What's
do
your
with
goals?
your son relative to
Buddha.
supporting what you're doing at home?" That to me is the biggest part of it all.
Yes,
The
it is.
alignment. You can't just randomly go find a body and say, well, that's a male, you're a male, by osmosis, everything's going to work. Give me another female or two if they have the alignment. Because
Well said.
that's the key. It's the alignment. That'll push
What is Ohio?
your child through. That's what pushed me through. There weren't a lot of males at Finney. And one of the two of the males who were there, they weren't role models. You know, they would be engaging in behavior that was anything less than paternal.
Okay.
Thank you.
But there were some women there who we had aligned.
Yes.
And so that's one of the things that we want to build.
Goldfish? What is it?
Hi, we have a caller. Oops. Hi, welcome to Mommy Talk.
Hi, I have a question.
What's your question?
Educator. My
Yes,
husband
ma'am.
raised two teenage boys. They're 15 and 16. When we have a disagreement at home, I tend to call their father. And he has to be kind of like a mediator over the phone to kind of diffuse the situation.
Right.
And I have a couple of friends who they just like they don't understand it, and I just wanted to know, am I doing the right thing? You know, by calling them because they don't understand. He doesn't live with us, so why am I calling them?
Oh no, that's an excellent question. Again, it's not for me to place judgment. I don't think you're doing the wrong thing. I think you have to determine where you want the ultimate power to lie. If you call dad, then what you could be communicating to your young man is that his voice may be more powerful than yours. So I think if it's a decision that you want to make relative to what's going on in their lives, and you want to couch it as if I'm including your dad because he's an important part of your life, but when you're dealing with some internal struggles and you just need them to recognize this is my house, you're my children, I have these belief systems, you're going to adhere to it, I'm the ultimate authority, then I would just be very reflective on when you engage or integrate dad into the conversation. I think it could just send a mixed message that you're not trying to send, because they may get the perspective that if it's a major decision or if it's a major point of emphasis, then he has to be a part of it. When you are 100% totally, without a doubt, the person making the total decision in that household. So I would just be comfortable and cautious. If you integrate dad, it's because you just are giving him information. It's not for him to come in and impede your movement, because you don't want to create a disconnection, because the boys will think it's us against them, and it's not. You're the ultimate authority. You're the Alpha and Omega. My mother used to tell me all the time. She's absolutely true. There is no other person to call. I'm the Alpha, I'm the Omega.
I like that.
It all starts and ends with me. If I need to tell your dad, it's a need to know basis for him. But it wouldn't be a matter of him being a part of the decision making unless that's the relationship that you all have established.
Yes, caller, that was a great question, because I have also been in that situation where I've had to call my kid's father and have him be the mediator. But I also have to establish, it's my house and I live here.
Absolutely.
Hey! No, sir. It's April.
But I just think that because I have my boys, they kind of, they daddy boys, so I could be saying the same thing. Cause they,
Yeah.
it's
the tone.
Yeah. They kind of listen. Me and him could be saying the same thing, but they, I think it's his approach.
Right.
And I'm just.
And it's the tone of voice, and it's the fact that they're with you sometimes more. They may be with you more than they are with the dad. So it's perfectly normal. And sometimes you have to look at your situation. And I heard you say that your friends sometimes get upset, but you can't worry about how other people. Again, it's my house and I live here.
Right.
So you can't base your decision on how somebody else reacts. Parent, are you a champion parent?
Yes, I am.
Yes, all right. Thank you for calling.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yes, Miss or Dr. Perk. Dr. Perk, can you give us a little insight? You were talking about a few little, not little, legal. You had a question about the legal, how to prepare your child with the legal system and legal world. I know I'm not asking your question. How you said it.
Oh, okay, no, that's okay. So, Mr. Ricky Fountain, pretty Ricky. How can parents help their African American,
in 1 minute.
okay, yeah, in 1 minute, yeah, 'cause I'm sorry, I got distracted.
We love Mr. Fountain. Mr. Fountain can answer a question.
Very thoroughly.
Yeah, so how can parents help their African American son be aware of societal injustice and how they should respond when faced with societal injustices or being pulled over by the cops?
I think it's important to, at a very young age, my son is 12, and we've been having conversations about society, whether it's in the media, whether it's online, whether it's at school, since he was 3. And I think you have to have conversations, scale the conversations obviously down to the appropriate age or grade. But the first thing is you got to tell your kids the truth. You got to tell them, listen, the world isn't fair or equal, but I need you to live long enough so you can have an effect in it and impact it. So understand that historically, this is how certain things have occurred to people of color. And you know, you tell them the truth. I said there are things that, as a dad, I have a degrees, I have different things that I've worked hard to acquire, but I still get profiled in my So truth is critical, access to information is critical, and hope is critical. Because although we've had a history of some injustices and they remain a part of our struggle, you also just have to use common sense. And I need you to come home in the morning and in the evening. So if that means you close your mouth, get out of a situation, and get back to me and let's complain about it and come up with a plan thereafter. So truth, honesty early, and consistent reinforcement of where we are and where we need to go.
All right, so Mr. Fountain, thank you. It's been real, relatable, and right on time. So callers, you have just heard from Mr. Ricky Fountain on the paternal balance with strength and submission for healthy fathers. How to raise your sons. How parents, period, can raise their sons. We thank you for tuning in to Mommie Talk. For upcoming events, please check out the website www.mommietalk.com and please register for our chatting with champion
parents.
And our backpack giveaway. We have some great, exciting things coming up, and we want to see you there.
Thank you, Mr. Fountain.
Thank you for coming. And thank you for listening to Mommie Talk.
Yeah.
I did it, and I teach it, and they don't know it's me.
Right.
And so they give me all this feedback.
Wait. What are we talking about here?
We are talking about Mr. Fountain. He has a few books. He has 3 books, and he's talking about even his experience with teaching, how he was able to teach on Amazon. He is able to teach the children through his lens.
That's wonderful.
And he's going to finish and tell you the rest.
Okay. Right. So the inspiration just basically came from you teach at a university and you're teaching adults. What is the most impactful way to get students to buy into the work? So I said if I was an author and I was able to teach them the content through my lens, I can explain it to them with depth. And I do it as a pseudonym. So my pseudonym is Max Carey. My son's name is Maximilian. My daughter's name is Carrington. So when I teach the book, kids are giving good quality feedback and they're getting into it and they don't know it's me. And then I'll tell them in 3 weeks the author's going to come. He's a friend of mine and I'm going to let you ask him all these questions about the book. And then when I obviously I'll go out and then I come back in, they're like, it's you? And so
that's interesting.
It just generates the type of intellectual thought. And I think for a lot of the students, a lot of them are not African American. It's like, whoa, that was something different. And so it's a lot of fun. And all the books are books that
I prayed about, like, God give me inspiration. And so I've just been inspired to do a few things, and I have 1 or 2 more projects that I'm working on currently, and Lord willing, another year or 2 would be 1 or 2 more books out there.
Won't he do it?
Always done.
Yes, he does.
Ricky, are you a champion at parenting?
You know what? I am a believer in parenting, and I'm a champion of this process. So, I think if you're a champion parent, you realize you're not a perfect parent. And I think people need to feel safe in exploring error to get better as a parent. I used to beat myself up. Did I make the right decision? Did I say the right thing to my son? Did I tighten him up right? And there is no right parent. There's just good, strong belief in faith and adjusting when need be. So I do think if being a champion parent is being a risk taker and a lover of your children, I'm winning. I'm a champion. You feel me?
You winning. Hey.
I didn't say perfect. And I didn't say without flaw. I said if I love my children like God loves me, then we win.
Yeah. And that's what it is. That's what we say. You know, being a champion parent is basically being willing to be better.
Absolutely.
You know, you always searching for, you know, I know we all have figured out creative ways to do certain things, you know. Want to hear about it?